ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतिरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाखया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद, जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्तवृंद। जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद, जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्तवृंद। जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद, जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्तवृंद। श्री चैतन्य भागवत आदि खंड chapter 10. All glories to Sri Gaurachandra, the Lord of all lords. Okay, the chapter is titled Marriage with Sri Lakshmi Priya. All glories to Sri Gaurachandra, the Lord of all lords. All glories to Sri Nityananda's beloved Lord, who possesses an eternal form. All glories to the Lord of Govinda, the doorkeeper. O Lord, please glance mercifully on the living entities. All glories to Jagannatha's son, the king of the Brahmanas. All glories to all of your devotees. All glories to the lotus-eyed Lord, who is an ocean of mercy. O Lord, please bless me that my mind may be absorbed in your glories. My dear brothers, please listen to the topics of Sri Chaitanya in this Adi Khanda, wherein the description of the Lord's scholastic pastimes are found. In this way, Sri Gaura Sundara engaged day and night in his studies while residing in Navadvipa. After performing his morning rites, the Lord of Tridasha went to school along with his classmates. The Lord would sit in Gangadasa's class and continually engage in debate. The Lord would always defeat the arguments of anyone who disagreed with his explanations. After class, the Lord sat in the midst of his friends to discuss the subjects further. Just 1 second. Murari Gupta did not care to sit in the Lord's discussions. Therefore, the Lord desired to confront him. Nimai wore his cloth like a sannyasi, and he sat in the Virasana posture. He was smeared with sandalwood pulp and decorated with tilaka. The effulgence of his beautiful teeth condemned that of a string of pearls. In his fresh youth, at the age of 16, Sri Gauranga's beauty captivated even Cupid. In knowledge, he surpassed Brihaspati, the spiritual master of the demigods. He would tease those who studied on their own. He would tease those who studied on their own. The Lord challenged, let us see who is intelligent enough to refute my conclusions. Some students don't even know the rules of conjunctions, yet they are satisfied to study on their own. Thus, they eventually become fools because they do not take help from someone in knowledge. Hearing Nimai's provocative statement, Murari Gupta did not say anything but went on with his work. Although the Lord was pleased that his servant remained silent, he nevertheless continued to challenge him. He said, "Oh, doctor, why are you studying here? You should go gather some leaves and herbs to cure the sick. The literatures on grammar are most difficult to understand, and they do not mention anything about mucus, bile, or indigestion. What will you learn by studying on your own? Better you go home and treat the sick." Murari Gupta is by nature most harsh, for he is an expansion of Lord Rudra. Still, he did not become angry at Vishwambara. He replied, Dear respected sir, why are you so proud? Why do you challenge everyone? Have you asked me about a sutra, vritti, panji, or tika and not received a reply? You have not asked me, yet you claim that I don't know anything. You are a respected Brahmana, so what can I say? So the Lord said, So tell me what you learned today. Then, as Murari began to explain, the Lord began to refute him. Murari would give one explanation, the Lord would give another, yet neither the master or the servant could defeat the other. By the mercy of the Lord, Murari Gupta was a great scholar. The Lord was pleased, therefore, to hear his explanations. In satisfaction, the Lord touched Murari's body with his lotus hand, and Murari became filled with ecstasy. Murari Gupta thought, he is certainly not an ordinary person. Can an ordinary human being possess such knowledge? Just by his touch, my body was filled with ecstasy. Why should I be embarrassed to study under him? In all of Navadvipa, there is no one more intelligent than him. Feeling satisfied in this way, the great doctor said, Listen, Vishwambara, from now on I will study under you. After this pleasing exchange between the Lord and his servant, Nimai and his friends went to take bath in the Ganges. After finishing his bath, the Lord went home. Thus the Supreme Lord enjoyed the life of a student. The Lord opened a school at the house of the most fortunate Mukunda Sanjaya. Mukunda Sanjaya was a resident of Sri Navadvipa and the father of Purushottama Sanjaya. So Nimai starts his own school. His son, so Mukunda Sanjaya's son Purushottama Sanjaya, became the Lord's student. He also had the great devotion for the Lord. There's a large Chandi Mandapa in the courtyard of his house. The hall had the capacity to hold many students. Lord Gauranga, the king of the Brahmanas, used to divide his students in groups and teach them in that hall. Nimai would give various explanations and refutations as he continually derided the other teachers. The Lord said, in the age of Kali, one who doesn't even know the rules of conjunctions is still given the title of Bhattacharya. Let them refute my explanations, then I will accept them as actual Bhattacharyas and Mishras. In this way, the Lord of Vaikuntha sportingly enjoyed his life as a scholar, yet none of his students could recognize him. When Mother Shachi saw her son's first symptoms of maturity, she began to make plans for his marriage. There was one qualified Brahmana in Navadvipa named Vallabhacharya, who was equal to Janaka Maharaja. He had a daughter who appeared to be the personification of Lakshmi. That Brahmana was constantly searching for a qualified husband for her. By providence, one day, when Lakshmi went to take bath in the Ganges, Gaura Chandra was there at the same time. Gaura Chandra smiled when he recognized his beloved Lakshmi, and Lakshmi mentally offered her obeisances to the Lord's lotus feet. After recognizing each other in this way, they both returned to their homes. Who can understand the pastimes of Lord Gaurasundara? By the Lord's will, that very day a Brahmana named Vanamali went to the house of Mother Shachi. That respected Brahmana offered Mother Shachi his obeisances, and she respectfully offered him a seat. Vanamali Acharya then asked Shachi, Why aren't you thinking about arranging your son's marriage? In Navadvipa resides one Vallabhacharya who is born in an exalted family. He is pure, well behaved, and decorated with many good qualities. He has a daughter whose beauty, qualities, and temperament are as good as Lakshmi. If you wish, I will arrange their marriage. Mother Sachi replied, My son is fatherless. Leave him alone to study for some time. Later I will consider. The Brahmana was not satisfied with Sachi's answer and therefore left disappointed. As he left by providence, he met Gaura Chandra, who happily embraced him. The Lord inquired, Tell me, where have you been? The Brahmana replied, I was speaking with your mother. I offered her a proposal for your marriage, but for some reason I don't understand, she refused. Hearing his words, Nimai remained silent for a moment. He then smiled and spoke a little more with the Brahmana before returning to his house. When the Lord returned home, he asked his father, "Why didn't you respect the Brahmana's proposal?" Mother Shachi was pleased to receive an indication from her son. The next day, she called the Brahmana to her home. Shachi said, "Oh Brahmana, I have decided that you may immediately arrange what you proposed yesterday." The Brahmana took the dust from Mother Sachi's feet and immediately left for the house of Vallabhacharya. On seeing the Brahmana, Vallabha offered him a seat with great respect. Vanamali Acharya said, "Please hear me. Choose an auspicious day for the marriage of your daughter. The son of Jagannath Mishra, Sri Vishwambhara, is highly learned and ocean of good qualities. This great personality is the proper match for your daughter. Now you decide what you would like to do." Vallabhacharya joyfully replied, "Such a husband for my daughter is achieved by great fortune. If Krishna is pleased with me and Lakshmi and Parvati are pleased with my daughter, then I will be blessed with I will I will bless with such a husband for my daughter. Okay. You may arrange everything without delay. But I have one request that I am embarrassed to disclose. I am poor and have no means to offer a dowry. I can offer only 5 haritaki fruits along with my daughter. Please beg their consent." Hearing the words of Vallabhacharya, Vanamali Acharya happily Vallabha Mishra, Vanamali Acharya happily completed all the formalities. He then returned to Mother Shachi's house and informed Mother Shachi, "The formalities have been completed. Now you may choose an auspicious time for the ceremony." When the Lord's relatives heard the news, they joyfully began to make arrangements. On an auspicious day, they held the Adhivas ceremony, during which people danced and sang while musicians played various instruments. All around, the Brahmanas recited Vedic hymns as Nimai, the jewel of the twice born, appeared like the moon in their midst. At an auspicious moment, the relatives and Brahmanas offered sandalwood pulp and flower garlands to the Lord, thereby completing the Adivas ceremony. The relatives also satisfied the Brahmanas by offering them sandalwood pulp, betel nuts, and flower garlands. Following tradition, Vallabha Acharya also came and joyfully took part in the Adivasa ceremony. After Nimai woke the next morning, he took bath, gave charity, and respectfully worshipped his forefathers. Auspicious sounds of singing, dancing, and musical instruments filled the atmosphere. Everywhere, excited people were calling out, "Take this, give that." Many chaste women, well wishers, friends, and respected Brahmanas graced the function. Mother Shachi happily satisfied the ladies with puffed rice, bananas, vermilion, betel, and oil. Demigods and their wives took the form of humans and also happily attended the Lord's marriage. Vallabhacharya joyfully worshipped the demigods and forefathers according to Vedic injunctions. At an auspicious time at dusk, the Lord arrived at the house of Vallabhacharya. As soon as the Lord arrived, Vallabhacharya and his associates drowned in an ocean of bliss. He then respectfully offered a seat to his son-in-law and welcomed him according to Vedic injunctions. Vallabhacharya then had his beautifully decorated daughter brought before the Lord. Everyone began to chant the names of Hari as they lifted Lakshmi off the ground. Then Lakshmi was carried around Nimai 7 times. As they placed her before him, she offered him obeisances with folded hands. As they finally exchanged flower garlands, Lakshmi and the original Narayana were both greatly pleased. After Lakshmi offered flower garlands at the feet of the Lord, she offered him obeisances with full surrender. All that could be heard was the ecstatic chanting of all glories to the Supreme Person of Godhead, Lord Hari. In this way, after they performed the ceremony of seeing each other's face for the first time, the Lord sat down with Lakshmi on his left. The Lord's fresh youthful beauty defeated that of Cupid, as Lakshmi then sat at his left side. Who has the ability to describe the wonderful scene and the happiness that was experienced at the house of Vallabha Mishra? At last, Vallabhacharya, who is non-different from Bhishmaka, sat down to give away his daughter. The same lotus feet that are worshipped by Shankara and Brahma to obtain the power of creation were now worshipped by the respected Brahmana Vallabhacharya. He then also decorated the body of the Lord with cloth, flower garlands, and sandalwood pulp. After duly offering his daughter to the Lord, the Brahmana became absorbed in an ocean of bliss. Thereafter, the chaste woman performed various traditional family rituals. That night, the Lord stayed at the house of Vallabhacharya, and the next day he returned home with Lakshmi. As the Lord and Lakshmi were carried home in a palanquin, people came running out of their house to see them. Both Lakshmi and the original Narayana were wonderfully decorated with sandalwood paste, flower garlands, ornaments, crowns, and bright kajala. Everyone who saw them exclaimed, "How wonderful!" The ladies were all particularly amazed. Someone said, "They exactly resemble Shiva and Parvati. They must have worshipped the Lord without duplicity for a long time. Can a less fortunate girl possibly get such a nice husband? I conclude that they are Shiva and Parvati." Someone else said, "They resemble Indra and Shachi, or Madana and Rati." One girl said, "They are Lakshmi and Narayana." Another girl said, "By their unparalleled beauty, it appears Sita and Rama are seated on that palanquin." In this way, the girls spoke in various ways as they joyfully watched Lakshmi and the original Narayana. When the couple arrived at Nimai's house in the evening, they were festively greeted by dancing, singing, and the playing of musical instruments. Sachi Devi, with some other Brahmana ladies, then jubilantly welcomed her daughter in law home. And thereafter, Mother Shachi satisfied the Brahmanas, musicians, and dancers with money, cloth, and sweet words. Whoever hears these auspicious topics of the Lord's marriage is never entangled in worldly life. If you are entangled in worldly married life, then we hear auspicious topics of the Lord's marriage. So we will never be entangled in worldly life going forward. With Lakshmi at the side of the Lord, the house of Shachi appeared like Vaikunta, the most effulgent abode. Such a wonderful effulgence emanated from the house that Mother Shachi could not even see properly. Sometimes Shachi saw flames of fire at the side of her son, but when she looked again, they were gone. When she sometimes smelled the fragrance of a lotus flower, she was utterly astonished. Shachi thought, "I can understand the reason for this. This girl is a plenary portion of Lakshmi Devi. That is why I see this effulgence and smell the fragrance of lotus flowers. Now we may not face any poverty like before. Otherwise, where has everything come from since this daughter-in-law Lakshmi entered my house?" In this way, Mother Sachi had various thoughts as the Lord almost but not quite manifest himself. Who can understand the supreme will of the Lord? How and when does he perform his pastimes? Until the Lord himself allows one to know him, even Lakshmi has no power to understand him. The Vedas, Puranas, and other scriptures confirm that only one who is favored by the Lord can understand him. Accepting Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhu as my life and soul, I, Vrindavan Das, sing the glories of their lotus feet. Chapter 11, Meeting with Sri Ishwara Puri. All glories to Sri Gaurachandra, the Lord of Lords. In his childhood, he was the reservoir of scholastic pastimes. In this way, as Gaura, the best of the Brahmanas, confidentially lived in Navadvipa, he had no engagement other than studying. His form was as enchanting as millions of cupids. Each of his limbs was incomparably charming. His arms extended to his knees, and his eyes were like the petals of a lotus. He chewed betel nut and dressed divinely. As the Lord walked with thousands of students by the strength of his knowledge, he entertained everyone with his sharp wit. Vishwambara, the Lord of the three worlds, traveled all over Navadvipa, holding in his hand his beloved Saraswati in the form of a book. There was no scholar throughout Navadvipa who could understand Nimai's explanations. The Lord discussed his explanations only with the most fortunate Gangadasa Pandita. All the materialistic people said, "The parents of this boy are certainly glorious. What can they be lacking?" All the ladies considered the Lord to be as attractive as Cupid, and the atheists considered him as death personified. All the learned scholars considered him equal to Brihaspati. In this way, everyone appreciated the Lord according to their own mentality. Seeing Vishwambara's attractive form, the Vaishnavas felt both jubilation and lamentation. They thought, although he has such a divine body, he has no attraction for Krishna. What good is his education if he simply wastes his time? All the Vaishnavas were bewildered by the internal potency of the Lord. So even though they saw the Lord, they didn't understand him. Although they directly saw the Lord, some of them said, "Why do you waste time in your fruitless pursuit of knowledge?" The Lord smiled on hearing his servant speak like this, and he replied, "I am fortunate to have you instruct me." As the Lord thus passed his time in scholastic pastimes, his servants could not recognize him, so what to speak of others? People came from all over India to study in Navadvipa. For if one studied in Navadvipa, he got a taste for education. Many Vaishnavas came from Chattagrama to live on the bank of the Ganges and study in Navadvipa. They were all renounced devotees of Krishna and had taken birth by the order of the Lord. After school hours, they regularly met together in a solitary place to discuss topics of Lord Krishna. Sri Mukunda was most dear to all the Vaishnavas. Their hearts all melted when he sang. In the afternoon, all the devotees regularly met in the house of Advaita Prabhu. As soon as Mukunda would begin singing about Krishna, everyone there fell to the ground in ecstatic love. Some of them cried, some laughed, and others danced. The clothes of some persons scattered as they rolled on the ground. Someone roared as he challenged the agents of Maya, and someone else caught hold of Mukunda's feet. In this way, the Vaishnavas enjoyed great ecstasy and forgot all forms of distress. The Lord was most satisfied with Mukunda. Whenever the Lord saw him, he would stop him. The Lord would then ask Mukunda for some clarification on a point, and when Mukunda answered him, the Lord would say wrong, and immediately an argument would begin. By the mercy of the Lord, Mukunda was very learned. Thus, he was able to present arguments and counter arguments to Nimai's challenge. In this way, the Lord recognized his devotees by challenging them for clarification on some point, but they were all defeated in the ensuing argument. Rivasa and other devotees were all challenged in this way by the Lord, but they would all run away in fear of wasting time in useless arguments. And the devotees were naturally detached due to their advancement in Krishna consciousness. They did not care to hear anything other than topics related with Lord Krishna. As soon as the Lord saw any devotee, he would challenge him. And when he failed to give the correct response, the Lord would tease him. If any of them saw the Lord coming in the distance, they would run away out of fear of being challenged. The devotees all loved to hear topics concerning Lord Krishna. But Nimai did not mention anything about Krishna when he challenged them. One day, as Nimai walked on the main street with his students, he displayed symptoms of great pride. At that time, Mukunda was on his way to take bath in the Ganges. But when he saw Nimai coming, he ran away. Seeing this, the Lord inquired from Govinda, "Why did this boy run away upon seeing me?" Govinda replied, "Oh Pandita, I don't know. Perhaps he went somewhere for some work." The Lord said, "I know the reason why he is avoiding me. He does not want to speak with a non-devotee. This boy studies only Vaishnava literatures while I explain only Panji, Vritti and Tika. I do not speak anything about Krishna. Therefore, he ran away when he saw me." The Lord called Mukunda some ill names, yet he was actually satisfied with him. At the same time, he indirectly disclosed his identity. The Lord said, "My dear boy, how long will you avoid my clutches? Do you think you will escape my association by running away?" Smiling, the Lord said, "When I finish my studies, then you will all see my Vaishnava qualities. I will be such a Vaishnava that Brahma and Shiva will come to my door." My dear brothers, listen to me. I will certainly become an extraordinary Vaishnava. Those who run away from me today will chant my glories and qualities tomorrow. After speaking in this way, Nimai smiled and returned home with his students. Who can understand these pastimes enjoyed by Lord Vishwambara unless he reveals them? In this way, the devotees resided in Navadvipa, which was filled with people intoxicated by wealth and children. As soon as such people heard the devotees' kirtana, they taunted the devotees. Someone said, "This is just a means for filling their stomach." Another said, "They have given up the cultivation of knowledge to dance like mad men. What kind of behavior is this?" Someone else said, "I have studied Srimad Bhagavatam for a long time, but I have never found any mention of dancing and crying as a spiritual path." My dear brothers, because of Srivasa and his three brothers, we cannot sleep after eating. Is there no piety in softly chanting Krishna's names? Must one chant, dance, and shout loudly? Actually, in one Sri Vaishnava temple, we were actually chastised like this when we had gone. We were all loudly chanting. He said, "Why is this like just shouting like this? This you think it will please the Lord?" We just said, "Okay, sorry," and we moved on. Mm. In this way, all the sinful atheists abused the Vaishnavas whenever they saw them. Hearing their abusive words, the devotees were greatly distressed. They would chant Krishna's name and cry loudly. How long will this miserable condition last? Oh Krishna Chandra, please manifest yourself to these people. The Vaishnavas all told Advaita Prabhu about the abusive words of the atheists. Hearing their account, Advaita Acharya became as angry as Lord Rudra and loudly exclaimed, I will kill them all. My Lord who carries a chakra is coming. Then you will see what happens in Nadia. I will make Krishna appear before the eyes of all. Then this person named Advaita will be known as the servant of Krishna. Please wait a few more days, my dear brothers, and you will see Krishna right here. After hearing the words of Advaita, all the devotees forgot their distress and began Kirtana. As the auspicious sound of Krishna's names arose, Advaita and other devotees became overwhelmed. The pains caused by the atheists' abusive words were mitigated as the city of Navadvipa became filled with ecstasy. Lord Vishwambara happily passed his days in study and always increased the joy of Mother Shachi. In the meantime, Sri Ishwarapuri came in disguise to Navadvipa. He was overwhelmed with love for Krishna. He was most merciful and dear to Lord Krishna. Wearing the dress, he could not be recognized by anyone as he arrived by providence at the house of Advaita. He humbly sat down close to where Advaita Prabhu was performing his puja. The effulgence of a Vaishnava cannot be hidden from another Vaishnava, and therefore Advaita Prabhu looked at him again and again. Advaita then said, Dear Prabhu, who are you? I think you are a Vaishnava sannyasi. Ishwarapuri replied, I am lower than a Shudra. I come here simply to see your lotus feet. Understanding the situation, Mukunda began to sing a song about Krishna with great devotion. As the sound of Mukunda singing entered his ears, Sri Ishwarapuri fell to the ground. Incessant tears flowed from his eyes, and the waves of his love increased again and again. Advaita Prabhu hastily took him in his arms, and his entire body became wet with tears. The symptoms of ecstatic love continued to increase rather than diminish as Mukunda began to loudly recite appropriate verses. The Vaishnavas' were filled with incomparable happiness as they saw the transformations of ecstatic love. Later, when they learned that he was Ishwarapuri, the devotees all remembered Lord Hari. In this way, as Ishwarapuri wandered about Navadvipa in disguise, no one was able to recognize him. One day, as Sri Gaura Sundara was returning home from school, by providence he met Sri Ishwarapuri. Being his eternal servant, the Lord offered him obeisances. Vishwambara's beautiful personal beauty was indescribable. He was the reservoir of all extraordinary qualities. Although people did not know his real identity, they nevertheless had great respect for him. When Ishwarapuri saw Nimai's features, he could understand that Nimai was a most grave and exalted personality. Ishwarapuri inquired, O best of the Brahmanas, what is your name? What are you studying and teaching? And where do you live? When the others replied, He is Nimai Pandita, Ishwarapuri joyfully said, So you are Nimai. The Lord invited Ishwarapuri for lunch and then respectfully brought him home. Mother Shachi prepared an offering for Krishna, and after honoring the prasada, Ishwarapuri sat in the temple room. Thereafter, Ishwarapuri became fully absorbed while describing topics of Lord Krishna. The Lord was satisfied to see his unprecedented symptoms of love, which he did not normally manifest due to people's misfortunate position. Ishwarapuri stayed for a few months in Navadvipa at the home of Sri Gopinatha Acharya. Everyone was overjoyed to see him, and the Lord would also regularly go to visit him. Seeing Gadadhara Pandita's tears of love, all the Vaishnavas felt a great affection for him. As he was detached from worldly life since childhood, Ishwarapuri also felt similar affection for him. He had Gadadhara Pandita study a book that he had written named Krishna Leelamrita. After studying and teaching, the Lord went in the evening to offer obeisances to Ishwarapuri. Ishwarapuri was happy to see Nimai and thought, and though he did not know him as a Supreme Lord, he still had love for him. Ishwarapuri smiled and said, "You are a big scholar. I have written a book about the characteristics of Lord Krishna, Krishna Leelamrita. I would be most satisfied if you would tell me if there is any fault in it." The Lord replied, "Whoever finds fault in a devotee's description of Lord Krishna is a sinful person. Krishna is certainly pleased with his devotees' poetry, even though it is imperfectly composed. An uneducated person may chant Vishnaya, while a sober person will chant the proper form Vishnave. But the Supreme Lord Krishna will accept both forms when they're chanted with devotion. At the time of offering obeisances to Lord Vishnu, a foolish person chants Vishnaya Namaha. This is improper due to faulty grammar. And a learned person chants Vishnave Namaha. This is the correct form. But both achieve equal piety by their offering of obeisances because Lord Sri Janardana is the sentiment of the living being. In other words, he sees the degree of devotion, or in other words, he awards the result accordingly. He does not see one's foolishness or intelligence. One who finds fault with a devotee is himself at fault, for a devotee's descriptions are meant only for the pleasure of Krishna. Therefore, who will dare find fault with your devotional descriptions of Krishna's pastimes? So please note, since we don't understand the heart of another devotee, we better not find fault in others. Hearing Nimai's reply was like a shower of nectar on the body of Ishwarapuri. Oh, also, by the way, this topic somebody asked me saying that, okay, maybe I might not have done a mistake, but some other devotees felt bad, and I go and ask for forgiveness. What if that devotee still doesn't forgive? Hmm? Really, we should understand that such a devotee who doesn't forgive is in a very fallen condition of material existence. Mm, Actually, in fact, when a devotee comes and asks forgiveness to us, we should fall at their feet and say, "Please apologize if, please forgive me if I've done some mistake." Mm, mm, In devotee community, if we keep our false ego, uh, Krishna is not pleased. Please remember this. Therefore, who will dare find fault with your devotional descriptions of Krishna's pastimes? Hearing Nimai's reply was like a shower of nectar on the body of Ishwarapuri. He then smiled and said, "You will not be at fault, but you must tell me if there is any error in the book." Therefore, Nimai would daily sit with Ishwarapuri for 1 or 2 hours to discuss his book. After hearing his poetry one day, the Lord smiled and said, "The verb root of this sentence is incorrect. The Atmanepadi form should not be used here." After saying this, the Lord returned home. Ishwarya Puri was a learned scholar in the scriptures, and he enjoyed analyzing scholastic topics. See, great devotees are also great scholars. It's not like our acharyas are like just sentimental. Mm. After Nimai left, Ishwarapuri considered the verb root that he had used and came to a conclusion from many different angles. He left the verb in its Atmanepadi form, and when Nimai came the next day, he explained, "I have concluded that the verb that you said yesterday should be Parasmaipadi, should remain Atmanepadi." Anyways, those who understand Sanskrit will understand this. When the Lord heard his explanation, he was most satisfied with his servant's victory, and he did not find any further fault. The Vedas declare that the Lord by nature always expands his devotees' glories by making them victorious. In this way, Ishwarapuri passed a few months enjoying scholastic pastimes with Sri Gaurachandra. Ishwarapuri, however, would not remain in one place due to the restless nature of his ecstatic love. He thus went out on pilgrimage to purify the earth. Whoever hears the auspicious topics about Sri Ishwarapuri lives at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Sri Madhavendra Puri happily gave the complete treasure of his ecstatic love to Ishwarapuri. By the mercy of Krishna, Sri Ishwarapuri obtained love of God from his spiritual master, so he traveled free from all anxieties. So please understand, we will receive love of Krishna from our spiritual master. So if we think that we are qualified, we are this, we are that, we'll never get anywhere close to getting Krishna Prema. accepting Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhu as my life and soul. I, Vrindavan Das, sing the glories of their lotus feet. Okay, we'll stop here. Chapter 11. Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha Kalpatarudhita Kripa Sindhu Devacha. Patitanam Bhavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Ananta Koti Vaishnavati ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.